JT Crowley is Talking Books. On the show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world.
Hello, I'm JT Crowley, and I'm extremely pleased to have on the show today James A. Johnson from the US state of Alabama to talk about his book, An American Abduction. Is it fiction or is it happening? Which he had published in October 2023. James has penned many books, but this is his first published book. A book God inspired him to write. There is a hint of religion to it, but this is a story for those that love the supernatural, UFOs, aliens, and abductions, American kidnappings. It has an excellent narrative that holds many surprises that are interspersed between the 45 chapters. Matt Riley and Tangy Turner, the main characters, take you on a mystical, inexplicable journey. Are these American abductions fiction or real happenings? If you want to know, well, the simple answer is to find out is to buy the book. But listen to the podcast first. James was born in Berry in a small farming rural community in Alabama. He is one of 8 siblings and has been married to his second wife, Beatrice, for close on to 40-odd years. He has 3 grown-up children. He's a retired civil servant who worked in finance. He presently lives in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and his relationship with God means a lot to him. So, let's invite him on the show to talk about himself and this book, plus what other books he has in the pipeline. James, come and join me.
Thank you, John, for having me. And I'll be glad or happy to talk about my book and my books.
Oh, I am super excited. When I looked at this book initially when we connected on LinkedIn, I thought this is a magical book and I hope he gives me the opportunity to interview him. So, James, I've given the audience a few snippets as to who you are and what this book is about and why you wrote it. But would you care to elaborate further as to who you are and the history behind this book, An American Abduction? Is it fiction or is it happening?
Okay. Well, I would say it started in the late 90s or early 2000s. And you mentioned I'm a civil servant. I work for the government, for the US government. And at the time, I was thinking about changing jobs. And as I thought about it, this voice come to me that said, write a book, just out of nowhere. I mean, I heard it clear as day. And that's when I wrote my first book. And then after that, I said, okay, I think I'll write another one. When the voice said write a book, I had no idea what I was going to write about or anything. And then I thought about it, because the voice wouldn't go, that voice wouldn't go away. And so I finally decided I'll write. I like action adventure movies, so I'll write an action adventure type book, thriller. And I wound up writing about 3 at that time. And I thought, okay, this may be the answer since I was thinking about changing jobs. Maybe this is my new job. Maybe I'm going to be a writer. But I really didn't go anywhere at that time. I realized, and the easy answer to why I'm where I am now is I could just simply say God. He took my mind off changing jobs and doing other things, because I eventually got the promotion to the job that I really wanted. And that's the job that God had for me. I realized that after the fact. So he just had me writing to take my mind off applying away from the job that he had, he had for me even before I was born. I retired from that job 33 years later. And when I retired, I thought, I'm not writing again. I'm going to play golf. I'm going to travel. I'm going to do things I want to do. I was just writing for that particular time. And so there was no plans. Writing was not part of my retirement plan. But in 2020, I retired in 2018. In 2020, voice come back to me and said, write a book about alien abductions. And I said, this has happened before. I had been told to write a book, but I don't think God would tell me to write a book about alien abductions. So I tried to put it off as a dream, just a thought that come in my head. but it wouldn't go away. For almost a year, it wouldn't go away. And I finally said, okay, I guess God wants me to write. He wants me to write again, but why does he want me to write about alien abductions? So when I started putting the story together and thinking about it and thinking, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna write this one book and then maybe I'll publish the other three that I wrote years ago. And I'm gonna put everything in it. I'm gonna put spies in it. I'm gonna put alien abductions. I'm gonna put kidnapping abductions. I'm gonna put government agencies in it and international espionage and everything. And it is in the book. But I was thinking at the time, I'll write this one book and that would be it. So I wrote the book, and it is about it is, I consider, a really, really good book if you like action adventure. And the dichotomy of the book is that the couple, Matt and Tangi, are she is a devout Christian and he is agnostic. So that dichotomy plays out throughout the book as well. So there are several plots, a lot of plots, and basically they are they're honor students from Yale University recruited by the CIA to work on a secret government program in an underground government facility, secret underground facility next to Carlsbad, New Mexico. And they are tasked with developing a mind control program. But they don't know that the mind control program is a cover for other things that's going on in that facility. And the aliens know about the facility and they want to know what's going on. This group of aliens want to know what's going on in the facility. So they abduct Tangi and Matt when they're on a night trip, coming back from visiting Fort Sumner in New Mexico, and they're abducted, and they plant a spy chip in Matt's knee so that they can listen and find out what's going on in that facility. And it just sort of goes. It really goes from there, because you have government agents, you have other government agencies, the government of Colombia, and as well as Russia, wanting to. They have their spies in the facility, and so they're wanting that secret mind control program as well. And it just sort of explodes into Tangi and Matt being just bit off more than they could chew, and find out there's a lot of things going on that they have to avoid, and their life becomes imperiled, and so it's just a lot of danger and twists and turns that go from there.
Okay, so let's open the book, shall we? So we're going to open the book, everybody, to reveal what's in these thrilling 45 chapters. Now, we're not going to go into all of the chapters, as that's not the purpose of this podcast. The interview. The objective is to give you all a flavor as to what you can expect, enough to give you an overriding sense of what the book is about. And if you want to know more, then go to his webpage, which you can find on the written introduction that accompanies this podcast. It's www.jjsnovels.com, or simply buy the book. Now, James and I have agreed to highlight some areas of the book that we feel strongly reflect the narrative within. So, James, let's take the readers, the audience, to the chapter headed up First Abduction. You set the scene here in New Mexico. A father and his son are having some bonding time together, following the death of wife and mother. The two of them are in a transition period, moving on from the past and looking forward to new beginnings. But the son sees an object coming towards them from the night sky, and the first abduction takes place. James, would you care to fill us in here as to why you have chosen to kickstart the book off like this?
Well, I always felt, especially from watching action movies that I love to watch, is that you start with a bit of an action scene, and then you go to something else. That would be chapter 2 would be something else. But this starts off with the real alien abduction, and it's not the main two characters, but it's an abduction, and it sets the stage and gives the reader something to wonder why that is there, and say to themselves, this has to come back somewhere in the book, because in chapter 2 we go to another abduction, which is basically a kidnapping. So I set the stage like I watch so many movies. They would show one thing, and then maybe after a commercial or whatever, it would go to another scene, and you wonder how these two relate. And to me, it makes me want to watch the movie more, or want to read more to find out, how does this particular chapter, how does it starting off with this, then it's going to other things, how does this play out? So that's why I wanted to start it with something the book is about, but not, they're not the main characters.
They're not. Now, the next chapter, chapter 2, you head up, James, another abduction. You've already hinted at that. You set the scene with 4 men sitting around a table in a high-rise office building in downtown Albuquerque, New Mexico. Bill Moyers is a man tasked with a delicate matter, something that is going to have a major impact on America's future. The CIA, the military, the president are talked about here. Area 51. And as the little, or all the chapters hints at, another abduction takes place, but a different type of abduction to the one we saw in the first chapter. So what path are you steering the reader down here?
Well, first, the title of the chapter is Another Abduction, and to let them know that kidnappings are also abductions. Not just alien, there's not just alien abductions going on in the book. And this one, since it's totally different from the first chapter, it lets the reader know that this book is going to cover a lot of things. Now we have people talking about secret programs, and we're working with the government here, and it's letting the reader know that there's more than an alien abduction going on. There's some secret projects, and now I'm really interested in this book. I want to know what these projects are, as well as wanting to know how this first abduction in chapter 1, how it relates to that. So I want to give these 2 chapters, even before I introduce the main characters, set the stage for a lot of different things, and then the characters come in, and you wonder how all of that is going to relate and play out.
I found in this chapter, and I'm going to ask you this: reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering, letting the readers know that there's some futuristic technology going on, and I want to read about it. The chapter doesn't talk about any of that technology. It just talks about the people in charge of it. So I'm thinking this chapter should make people want to read on and see what this technology is all about.
Let's move the audience on here, James, because this book is exciting, everybody. It's exhilarating, it's action-packed. And as I said, all you supernatural people, you UFO enthusiasts and aliens are going to just love this book. Now, let's move on to chapter 4, and I think it's called Opposite Attract. And it's here that we really start to see the characters Matt Riley and Tangy Turner starting to develop as the main characters. They've just got married, and whilst you start the chapter off by saying a match made in heaven, these 2 characters are very, very different. You give them very different opposing characteristics. Tangy is a staunch, God-fearing, loving Christian. Matt, not so. And for the reasons you talk about. Tangy also has strong reasons around extraterrestrial life. She was intrigued by it right from a very young age. Matt has a very different view on this subject matter. So Matt and Tangy have bright futures ahead of them. The academic achievements caught the attention of the world. Russia, China expressed and interesting, though. Now, I don't know if I'm right here or not, James, but I suspect Matt is the young boy in chapter 1. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But the question is, why have you created these two dominant characters to carry out and develop your story here? It's really true, opposites do attract.
The opposites attract in that they have those differences that you mentioned, their opinions on UFOs and their views on God, whether there is a God in Christianity. And they look at each other as they're so strong in their opinions and their views that they believe they can convince each other of their side. That's the opposites about them. Everything else I feel is similar in that they both come from Texas, but they're both at Yale, and Matt would like to move back to that part of the country. They love each other, they fall in love, so they have the similarities bring them together in a marriage, and the differences sort of play out throughout the book. I will say that Matt is not the young boy in the first chapter.
Ah, I was hoping he was.
He's not. When you read the book,
Oh,
several chapters later on, you'll start getting the hint of who the young boy is and how that plays out.
there you go, everyone. You've got to read the book, everybody, to find out who is the young boy right in chapter 1. Now, James, let's head off to chapter 10, which you head up 9 months later, graduation and retirement. Now, most of your chapters are short, but this one is extremely short. In fact, just 1 page. But for me, it's a turning point in the book. It's a pivotal moment. It's there that's Matt and Tangy taking their careers to level 2. Level 2. My question here, James, is, can you tell what precisely Matt and Tangy do? What is level 2? But more importantly, how are their roles intensifying to expand and grow the overall plot? Are you getting these two into deeper waters that are potentially coming down the line? Tell us.
They are going into deeper waters in level 2 because the book infers that not a lot of people make it through level 1. Level 1 is where they've already known, they know by now that they're tasked with developing a mind control program without chemicals, without drugs, and any type of assistance, just being able to control someone's mind with your mind. And they made it through level 1, which is their initial training on the philosophy of the brain and how the brain interacts. They learn a lot of that, of course, at Yale, because they studied the brain and biochemical and all of that. So their instructor in level 1 is the one that just teaches them brain theology, the theory of the brains and stuff. So she sets the stage, and they graduate about 9 months later. And also their instructor, Flo, is retiring. They are her last pupils that she will be working with. So she's retiring to her orphanage. And so they sort of get started, and they're going to have another instructor in level 2, which now is going to get into them performing tasks and learning and experimenting and really doing brain exercises to get through level 2.
I liked the character Flo. She's very good, isn't she?
Yes, I like Flo.
She's wonderful,
I
everybody.
really love Flo.
Oh,
I
she's a
think
character.
the readers are going to love Flo.
Yeah, don't mess around with Flo.
No.
Now, James, I want to jump now to chapter 26. So, said everybody, we have picked random chapters for just purely and simply to give this book a flavor so you get a sense of what it is about. If you want to know more about the book, then simply go on his website, as I said, or go and have a look at the book itself and buy it. So let's go to chapter 26, which you head up, Contract from a Stranger. Tangi is on the computer looking up information on the internet around infertility. When her screen goes down, an unknown masked man comes into Matt and Tangi's lives. The circumstances here are very mysterious. Matt and Tangi are put on guard. Where are you taking the reader here? Is this chapter about to reveal another surprise, a twist in the storyline enough to want the reader to follow through? Where are you taking?
Yes, each chapter builds more and more. This contact from, we have them working mind control programs and all of that, but and now the stranger comes in to sort of hint to them that there may be more to this than what you all are doing, and I want to let you all in on it. So the stranger just sort of mysteriously comes out of nowhere and sort of gives them, they have some suspicions about some things, but the stranger who contacts them to meet with them, he gets ready to lay some really heavy information on them about their facility and the programs and what certain government agencies are doing.
So chapter 26, Contact with a Stranger. But the next chapter I want to go to is chapter 31. Because again, it's talking about a stranger. Now, I believe Matt and Tangi meeting with the stranger. So we've had contact with the stranger, and now we've got meeting with the stranger. Here we have Alex 6. Now, I like the character Alex 6. He's a very dominant, he's a very wise person. He's a bit, I suppose Flo and Alex have their own characteristics, but they really do stand out in this book. Now, Alex 6, who works for Project Safeguard America. We've got a watch, Simon, an associate director of US affairs with the NSA, a car park scene, the dark web, the organization G.O.D, who Matt and Tangi work for, secret projects. I'm intrigued here, James. What is G.O.D? And what is its people working on? Yes, we've talked about levels 2, but we've got level 4 now. Will not. I sense that this is a very significant chapter. So my question, James, is what is G.O.D? That's the first bit. What can the reader learn from this chapter with respect to where the plot is going?
Well, GOD stands for Global Observation Defense. That is the name of the facility that Matt and Tangi are working in. That's the facility, that underground facility in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and it's it's called GOD, so that if they're ever interrogated, they can tell people, they can pass a lie detector test by saying, "I work for God." And the meeting with the stranger this is a continuation of the previous chapter that we talked about, where this is the same person. When the person contacted them, they set up this meeting. So the meeting now is for the stranger to reveal more about what's going on in that facility and some of the repercussions and what could be happening and what he would like for them to do. And that all that they were told in the beginning when they started the job is not, there's a lot more to it than what they were, and what they found out or what they knew when they started working there. So without giving a lot of it away, I'm just saying this is the same person that meets with them, and then he provides some evidence of what's going on, and that there's a lot of people really interested in what's going on there, including top levels of government that includes the President of the United States. So they learn how big this is when they meet with a stranger.
I think this is you ratcheting up the story here, to keep the reader turning these pages. And I think you're starting to drop a few hints as to what is going to happen towards the end. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
I drop hints. To me, that's my writing style, is to drop hints throughout the book, but keep the reader turning the page, because they're really not sure. All of my books, and I've written 7 of them so far, they are designed to keep you guessing and wondering what happens in the end.
But that's what a good writer should do. That's what a good writer should do. Now, James, let's go to chapter 35, which you headed up, Abduction, Kidnappers Come Calling. Ooh. Fascinating. Matt and Tangy return home. Matt discovers 3 armed men in his house. Are these men from Colombia? And why are you talking about the book of Nineveh from the Bible? The Persian king, Artaxerxes, the Ammonites, and Ashdodites. You end the chapter with the line, I don't have a problem fighting for protection. This is a powerful chapter. Tell us about it.
Well, this is where Matt and Tangy actually realized that they are wanted and valuable to somebody, because there's been an attempt to kidnap them. So now they know something is going on, and it's sort of relating back to maybe some of the things that were discussed with the other chapter when they met with a stranger. And they come to believe their lives may be in danger, and they may have to go on the run. They have to leave their nice home. They had gotten comfortable there in Carlsbad, New Mexico, bought themselves a new home, and were integrating with the community there. Matt had developed some golfing buddies, and Tangy was going to her church and her martial arts classes, and all of a sudden, when this kidnapping attempt takes place, they realize that somebody wants us, somebody wants something, and we better run. We better run some. And when they talk about the danger, Tangy sort of rationalized that she will fight for her life. She will fight. She don't have any problem defending herself, just like the Jews did when they were sent back to rebuild the gate in Jerusalem. They were building. The Bible says they built with one hand, and they had their hands on their sword, and with the other hand. So they were ready to fight and defend themselves. And she just uses that as an example, a paradox of I have no problem fighting for my life if I have to.
Very good, isn't it, this chapter? Now, the last chapter we're going to go in this book, everybody, is chapter 40, the Albuquerque visit. What a powerful and fascinating chapter. Got the CIA, Colombia, drugs, Mr. Rhodes. Wow. Tell us about this chapter in brief.
Well, the Albuquerque visit, when you get to that chapter, you will have known a lot. You will have known about Russia's involvement in the espionage. You will have known about Colombia and some of their plans with the facility, or with the knowledge from the facility. You will have probably, I think, have known also about other alien abduction attempts and such. And I have to look at the outline of the chapter. You may know by then, or may believe, or start thinking by then, start believing by then, who's the child or the little boy from the kidnapping in chapter 1. But the Albuquerque visit is where the DEA basically the agencies have been spying on each other. The DEA has been spying on the CIA. The NSA has been spying on the CIA. The CIA knows about what's going on with those agencies, but they don't share the information. So the DEA knows some things that Tangi and Matt don't know, and one of those things they know is how they're being paid, the money, the source of the funds. So the DEA basically kidnapped Matt and Tangi themselves, so they can teach them more about the inner workings of their facility and what was set up, and give them the big picture as well. And the DEA also plans they plan a major incursion that they kind of want Matt and Tangi to be part of.
Who do you see, or maybe
so they learn a lot each time they meet with people.
They do. They're fascinating characters, Matt Riley and Tangi Turner. But I'm still intrigued as to who the little boy is in chapter 1. But if you want to find out, everybody, buy the book. Now, who would you like to see reading your book?
You know, I said earlier, and I didn't finish it up, that God had me write this book, and I was wondering why he had me write a book about alien abductions. I thought, surely this can't be God. But then after I wrote the book, or was in the process of reading the book, I said, okay, I got it. He wants me to write something other than a Christian book, so that people other than Christian readers will read the book. They would be interested. You know, the book will reach a wider range of people. It will reach people that are interested in murders, and interested in aliens, interested in government conspiracies, and interested in all that kind of secret government programs, the CIA, the DEA, and all of that, and just a good action adventure. But at the same time, there's a Christian message in the book, because throughout the book, Tangi and Matt are still debating who's right about whether there's God. They're also debating, where does aliens come from? And in this book, you find out where aliens come from. That's probably of all the things, you mentioned the little boy in chapter 1, but of all of the things that you will find out according to this book, it's not according to James Johnson, it's according to the book.
It's according to James Johnson.
So one of the my original publishers, he said he put a comment. He put his comment in my book on the first page, and he says he uses the word thought-provoking, and that's what I really wanted the book to be, for you to read things, read chapters, especially read the ending, and say, I wonder if that is really how it is. It could be. I don't really call my books, and this one comes closest. The rest of them are more like crime and punishment type books, novels. I don't really call myself a science fiction writer, because I write stuff that could really be true. And so where science fiction goes out into the world of anything can happen. I draw the line and say, you can call it a sci-fi book, and I hope people, sci-fi readers read it, get it and read it, and appreciate the sci-fi part of it. But I don't call it a sci-fi book, because I don't think I'm writing anything that couldn't be happening. It's not imaginary. It's things that could really be happening. Sure. And so it's wrapped in a sci-fi book, as well as what I call a Christian book. I call it a Christian book with action, or an action book with a Christian theme. So I try to cover everything. I finally realized why God wanted me to write what I wrote.
Okay, so that's American Abduction, everybody. Is it fiction? or is it happening? But James, you've got some new books coming up, haven't you?
Yes.
Would you like to tell us about them?
Well, I think in my other books, I come more down to reality. My next book is called Bestseller, and it's about an aging author that wants to write. He and his agent want to write a one last bestseller before he retires. He hasn't had a bestseller in a while, and he thinks he has one when he plans to go meet with a former FBI agent who infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan to find out why a previous FBI agent was killed. And while he's on his way back to his hometown of East St. Louis, Missouri, from New York, where he's living, when he goes back to his hometown, he's sort of intercepted. Well, first of all, the agent that's coming to meet with him dies on the way to meet with him, and at the same time, another person meets with him that wants Marion Paris, that's his name, wants Marion to write a book about him, about his life. And he says his brother, he wants Marion to write a book about his brother who was in the mafia. And he wants to tell the story for his brother and have his brother killed off in the book so the mafia will quit looking for him. So Marion winds up tangled in two separate situations of the KKK and the mafia. It's a very interesting book. It's more realistic. It's more about crime and just, your regular crime that goes on in the world. And I have a bestseller too that's coming out, and it's after that one, it's totally different. It's still the same main character, Marion Paris, but he gets he winds up getting involved, and he's not seeking out this danger because he's just a plain person. But he winds up. This book involves human trafficking, and also I threw in a little bit of publishing scams because I've seen so many that I wanted to write about it. So I write about how some people are going through some scams, trying to get their books published.
So have you got a cover of that one?
Oh, yes. I have a cover of that one.
Let's have a look. Bestseller 2. There you go, everybody. So you've got bestseller and bestseller 2. Now, when are these books going to be coming out?
Well, I don't know when. What I want is American Abduction to really take hold, and I think it'll just be a feeling in me that okay, I have readers. Because everybody's read my books. The first question I asked everybody that read American Abduction, the first question I asked was, "Would you read another one of my books?" And they said definitely. Everybody said definitely. So I want this first book, American Abduction, to bring in the audience that will be interested in reading anything I write. So I feel like I need to get to that point first, and then the books will come out. I mean, I have 6 other books that are completed, and I have ideas for 6 more, as well as I started writing children's books as well. So
you're a busy guy. You're a busy guy. So
I'm busy.
Actually, I think everybody, he needs to walk before he runs, everybody. So let's stick with American Abduction. Is it fiction or is it happening?
One other book I wrote.
One other is Checkered Past.
And it's about a CPA that she works for a CPA firm in New Orleans, and she discovers some fraud among some major players in this bank, and she winds up there winds up being a murder of her boss in the CPA firm, and then it just sort of goes from there. Her world goes from being organized to being turned upside down by some people that come back from her past, as well as trying to solve the murders and trying to stay ahead of the people in the bank that are planning their retribution as well. So it's a good read as well.
So there's a lot coming down the line. There's a lot coming
Yes, a
down the
lot,
line, everybody.
a lot.
So it's not just going to be James A. Johnson, a one book pony trick. That's a phrase we have over here in the United Kingdom, where I come from.
Well, let me tell you, if let me say this, if I will, when I finished writing An American Abduction, my thought then was, okay, I got it, God. You wanted me to write this book and then publish the other three, and so I see now we have Amazon, we have all these ways to publish books, easier ways than when I wrote them back in the late '90s, early 2000s. So I said, I got it now. I got your message. And another vision came to me and said, I want you to write another book. I want you to write a book about the inner city intermingling for a cause with the upper crust. And that was my next book, called Uptown Ghetto. So I knew then that God wants me to write. He doesn't want me to stop writing. He wants me to keep writing. So
Good.
after An American Abduction, I've written 3 more books.
There you go, everybody. Well, I have to say, I mean, so the books, you can go onto James's website and to get the books there. You can go to Amazon, get the books there. Barnes and Noble as well.
Yes, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, and my publisher has a lot of platforms that I can't even remember that you can order the book from. So
Excellent.
it's available.
It's available, everybody. So I hope you've enjoyed the podcast, everybody. And I just need to say to James, thank you so much for coming on my show and giving me the wonderful opportunity to talk about your book, American Abduction. Is it fiction? Is it happening? James A. Johnson, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm JT Crowley. Thanks for listening, watching, wherever you're in the world. Until next time, stay safe.